All right, he's hoping that all is well with you from wherever you are listening to 89.7 Contact FM. My name is Eugene Anangwe. The show you're listening to is One on One. And of course, this particular moment, we are going to be hearing from one of the East African Legislative Assembly members right here in the program. We're going to be talking about their perspective on the integration process, plus, of course, clear some air on the issue that is going on when it comes to the issue of the Speaker of the Assembly. Plus, of course, get to know more about what they are around doing right here in Kigali. So with me is none other than Honorable Abubakar Zain. Welcome to One on One.
Thank you very much.
Asante sana for joining us.
Asante.
All right.
It's good to be here.
It's good to be here.
Yes.
So let's dive into the issues already, because we understand that the members of the East African Legislative Assembly are around for 2 weeks for a session to discuss various issues.
Absolutely.
Very quickly, so far so good, or so far nothing happening?
No, so far so good. I think we as members, we've been very quiet, partly because of the decorum and the traditions of Parliament. We have so far restrained ourselves from coming to the media and talking about what's going on in Parliament.
Why?
Because in parliamentary practice, once a matter has been introduced in Parliament, it's expected for you to resolve it in Parliament and for the coverage to be done in Parliament.
And the media does.
But we have realized that people need to know what's going on.
Exactly.
So now we're going to talk about it.
All right.
We are going to establish new norms about how we engage with the public.
Because indeed, sincerely speaking, many people don't really understand what the EALA members do or are supposed to do. Most of them just know of their members of parliament within their countries. Okay. What does that make you feel?
I guess, first of all, we have to understand that we are a regional assembly. Secondly, we are relatively young. This is the third EALA. When you say third EALA, means a tenure of 5. So we've had two terms of the first and second EALA, 10 years. So we're in the second EALA. We started our tenure in 2012. We have done, this coming December, we would have finished half of our tenure. But we have all the 3 classical functions of a parliament, which is representation, that is to represent the people and the partner states.
From individual partner states.
Yes. Secondly, is legislative, meaning we make laws, we pass resolutions, we recommend policy, but also oversight, which means that we provide accountability mechanisms on other organs as well as the institutions of the community. And uniquely, the only other regional integration parliament that has the same powers as ours is the European Parliament. The laws that are made by EALA, once assented to by the 5 heads of states, are binding on all partner states.
All of them.
They are implemented directly by all partner states. Because of that, it means that our legislative process is very important, because once you pass a law in our assembly, it can be applied in Rwanda, in Kenya, in Burundi, in Tanzania, in Uganda.
But there are those who feel probably, and this is which brings us to that issue where you outrightly said that there is need for you guys to come out more in the media and to tell people more about what you do. Because there are those who have a notion and a feeling that probably the Legislative Assembly is irrelevant. They feel like, okay, if it is a matter of representation, we have the East African Community Council of Ministers, where we have our ministers of EAC representing us. If it is about following laws and agreeing on certain protocols and other issues, we can engage our individual lawyers at individual levels.
The equivalent of what you're saying is, you will say that in the partner state, you don't need one arm of government. It doesn't happen like that. You have at least 3 arms of government, which means you, in the East African community, you have the executive, which is represented by the summit, the Council of Ministers, and the Secretariat, which is in relation to what people understand in partner states. It's like the government functionaries. But you also have 2 independent institutions that are supposed to exercise a very important function. The East African Legislative Assembly implementing the legislative function, and the East African Court of Justice. I don't know if you've heard of that. Again,
we hear about it.
Again, so you have the executive,
But
you have the representative, and you have the conflict resolution mechanism. So it is important to have a balance. In terms of governance, you will only have good governance when you have a balance of those three. And if you feel that representing people is not important, talk to the people. The people think that their views, their desires need to be articulated by people who represent them.
But if you talk to these same people who we have at some point, especially with what is going on currently at the East African Legislative Assembly,
Yes.
they will tell you all we know about those people is they're just earning packs. They're getting so much money, $6,000 per session, which lasts 2 weeks. And all they're doing is just bickering. Most of them say they want the speaker out. The speaker says, I'm not going. How do you explain that to the people? We are representing you, we are talking about you, it is you that matter.
It is the interaction of democratic principles.
Okay.
That what we are undertaking. Look, the treaty says that if you look at Article 7 of the treaty, it talks about what are the values that we'll seek to work with. They talk about democracy, they talk about representation, they talk about accountability, they talk about transparency. And we, the majority of the members, are trying to implement those principles. Now, if we have been known for the wrong reasons, maybe that's why some of us are now talking, that we may be known for the right reasons.
Following
so if you ask me, I'll tell you very simple and very clearly that the majority members of the assembly will no longer tolerate any bad behavior from any member. We will no longer tolerate bad leadership. We will no longer tolerate opaque decision-making processes. So there are things that we're trying to clean up in our own house. We have a few bad apples.
Which you want to pluck out.
A few.
And you think that among those few bad apples...
It's about leadership.
Okay.
And when you talk about a few, it's one person trying to influence maybe two others. But I don't want to focus on that. Let me give you this example.
Yes.
When you talk about this, we've been talking about Honorable James Dahiro from Rwanda introduced the East African Community Disability Bill. This disability bill is seeking to establish a legal framework that will allow for persons with disability to live with dignity and also to have all the protection of the law like other citizens.
Yes.
And become meaningful members
Of
who
the community.
participate. You know that we have problems handling disability. Maybe not in Rwanda. Rwanda is doing a great job in terms of mainstreaming the question of disabilities. But in the other partner states, we have problems with disability. Secondly, I'll give you another example. Honorable Ajabachiga, again from Rwanda, introduced what we call the Disaster Prevention and Management Bill. And you know that we've had issues with disasters across the region.
Yes.
So we're starting to set up our preparedness, institutional frameworks that will help in preventing disasters. And God forbid, when they happen, there is a capacity and framework to address those efficiently and with the minimum loss of life and protection of life and property. Honorable Sebalu from Uganda has introduced a cooperative bill which seeks to bring together the inherent power of small cooperatives, but now think big, regional wise. I've introduced the bill on civic education to raise the level of awareness of people about the integration process, about their rights, about their responsibilities.
So
I can tell you,
these are the good apples.
I can
these
tell you,
are some of the good apples.
No. Let me just take one point. Let me make one point.
Then we'll jump into this other issue. Yes.
I am saying, if you go to the record of Parliament, and seek to look at who has brought motions, who has brought bills, who interrogates government policies in there, you'll be able to tell who are the people who are doing the work,
The good
and who
apples
are
from
the
the-
people who are not doing the work.
All right, let's now talk about then these bad apples that you've mentioned. There's some of the bad apples. And personally, from the news bites we've had from you, from the interviews we've had from you, you personally believe that the speaker is among the bad apples.
Let's start from the beginning. Today, our assembly is sitting in Kigali.
Yes.
This was an innovation of the second assembly. The second assembly, and in my opinion, correctly and wisely, decided that it is important for the assembly to sit in every partner state for obvious reasons. For example, engaging with citizens of that partner state, engaging with the government of that partner state, bringing governance closer to the people,
Yes.
allowing people to participate in the processes of the assembly, and being able to hold to account their members. The speaker wanted to change that arbitrarily. This decision was taken by a resolution of the House. Now, if you want to change anything that was done by the resolution of the House, in other words, with the consent of the majority of the people, with the will of those who were there, you go back to the assembly and seek,
And you don't do it
and seek a
in
different
your own individual
and
capacity.
seek a different reason, right? She did this in her individual capacity, backed by maybe 2 or 3 members. So members said, first of all, that is illegal. You can't do that. If you want to do it, come back to the assembly and move a motion. No, she said, no. I am a ruler. You see, there's a difference between a lead and a ruler. Huh?
So first of all, the accusation from you or some of the people that are with you
I'm tracing the genesis of where the problem was.
Okay.
All right? So we tried to have informal sessions where we could build consensus. And we were saying, okay, we are willing to listen. Why you want all the sessions to be held in Arusha? Right. Now, we couldn't get any valid reason except personal interest, which is, I am based in Arusha, so the meetings have to be in Arusha. My family is also in Arusha. You can't do that.
This is said on the record?
In our meetings. And you tell me, you ask her, what was the reason for saying suddenly all meetings of the assembly would be done in Arusha?
But
No,
she
I'm
feels,
saying,
yes.
what is the reason for that? Right? Even the summit doesn't sit in one place. The requirement under the law is that we should hold at least one meeting in Arusha. That is the requirement in law. And we have 6 meetings in a year, so we hold one in Arusha and then one in every partner state. Now, something like that is so obvious and so inherently wrong to want to make a decision for the community based on personal interest. So when some members said they are not interested in their personal interest, what a member did was to say, I want to reaffirm the will of the assembly and introduce a motion in the
Essential
assembly.
motion.
Which, a motion in the assembly to reaffirm the rotational principle.
Okay.
She refused to put that on the order paper. She's directed by the commission to do so. She refuses. Until a crisis boils over, then the motion is brought, and the motion is overwhelmingly supported by the people. That's the only reason that we are still here in Kigali. Otherwise, we would not have been able to
You'd be in Arusha right now.
We'd be in Arusha.
No, but
for me as a Kenyan,
Yes.
let me tell you a story. For me as a Kenyan who is based in Nairobi, Arusha is like 2.5 hours, 3 hours from me. So if it was personal interest, Arusha would work for me very well. But also know this, apart from these great things I've said, there's also an economic imperative here. That when the assembly sits here for 2 weeks, we contribute to the local economy, even if it's in a small way.
Okay.
The small traders,
Buy some juice and all that.
the hotels get business.
Exactly.
And so on.
Let's
now,
before you go
now,
in there,
now,
because
no,
of
no,
time
let me-
limiting factors.
let me finish.
Let's
Let me
go
finish.
into the issue
Let me
that
finish.
you mentioned earlier on,
But-
that we had in the press that there were plans to
Yes.
boycott this session in protest of the speaker still being in power.
Who said that?
There were
Who
reports of
said
this.
that?
There were so many reports that you
Listen.
would be boycotting.
No.
What was the change? Why the change of tone?
No, you see, boycotting is a spin from the speaker. She called an international press conference in Kampala and said people are boycotting. People are only interested to come and pick the money and go away. I've told you, go through the list of those who have introduced bills. Who are these who have introduced bills? So you will be able to tell who is working, right? Who has introduced bills? Who has introduced motions? Who has introduced work in the in Parliament? But more importantly, let me say this: a speaker, ordinarily, is just first among equals. A speaker is supposed to be completely nonpartisan. The speaker was elected by us, by our consent. And we respect the institution of the speaker. And we are seeking to get the holding officer of the office of the speaker now to elevate it back to the point where it had honor and dignity. In the first EALA, you never had a problem with the speaker. In the second EALA, you never had a problem with the speaker. Even now, we requested to have 6 sessions to resolve our differences privately. We were not never accorded a chance. I am the chairperson of the Regional Affairs and Conflict Resolution. So we've tried all our best to resolve our conflicts so that it does not interfere with the work.
But some accuse you of just jumping and being ready to go to the media
listen.
To make a lot of noise about this. Yet the first censure motion did not succeed.
No, listen.
How do you explain that all these things that you're saying, that indeed they don't want her in that position?
Listen to me. Have you ever had me in the media?
Yesterday I had you on Contact FM.
Yes, I was just interviewed and reluctantly so. This is the first time I'm speaking to the media and the community. Because I have others, but let's talk about the issues. We are interested to have serious work introduced in the assembly. If somebody is blocking serious work, we will not just come and say, let us go through a workshop for building friendship.
Team building.
Team building is not anything that is in the treaty. It's not serious business.
So what do we do now?
But wait.
Yes.
Wait. That's number one. Number two, you talked about the motion of removal. The motion of removal, when it was filed in the House, the Speaker decided to sue the community.
Okay.
She went to court and said, one, there are no rules that can be used to remove me. Even the court was puzzled. If EALA has no rules, how are you elected? So the court reaffirmed that EALA has rules. She had gone to say that EALA has no rules. Two, she said EALA has no power to remove me. The court said no, it has power to remove you. During that time, she told us we can't transact that motion when her case was in court. We respected that.
Okay.
Right? When the court said, no, your case has no merit and it was thrown out, the motion came before the House. Now, according to our rules, and any democratic institution will tell you this, that if you face serious allegations of corruption, of bad governance, of nepotism, of so many serious allegations, our rules require for her not to sit and chair the session while that motion is being transacted.
And what is happening today?
She refused. She said, I must chair. Then she chaired, and then she said, this motion is not permissible. I will not allow it.
So what happens now? What happens now?
Let me finish.
What happens?
Let me finish.
What happens?
Let me finish.
Yes, what happens?
Let me give you an example that people of Rwanda can relate to. In the Senate, they had a similar problem. And when members decided to raise a confidence motion on the Senate president,
yes,
he was dignified enough to come back and say, please, let's not go through this mess.
I resign.
So
is this what you want the Speaker to do?
No, listen. Why would you allow for a culture of impunity to go on? So if you can look at the current I talked about bills, and you stopped me because I was talking about serious bills, and I was mentioning who was bringing those bills. I can go on until the end.
The list is endless.
Until the cow comes home, so you would know who is working and who is not.
And who's not working.
In fact, those bills and those motions and those questions being brought are reflective of those who want our assembly to do serious business. Now, yesterday, I was supposed to continue with the debate in Dar es Salaam. We had started and it was interrupted, that debate. And the debate was about a report of a committee, my committee, where we had held a regional security conference on what are the issues that face us in terms of peace, security, and stability for the region. And we had made very good recommendations.
And then what?
And this was supposed to be discussed by Parliament. We went halfway. But yesterday, in fact, if you talk about commitment to duty, I lost a relative the day before yesterday. I could have flown to Nairobi.
But you are around.
I would have flown to Nairobi for the funeral, but I stayed because of the importance of the business in the house.
So
yesterday,
just as we close, because
Yes.
also time is not on our side, we
Yes.
want to really find a solution or possibly more information on this particular issue. So what is the next step? What do you want the Speaker of the East African Legislative Assembly to do that you will feel fine? There now we have had a due diligence, we have had justice, we have had what we have been calling for. What is it that you want her to do before these sessions end?
To allow for the will of the assembly to be exercised. If she believes truly that she has the confidence of the House, let's put it to a vote and say how many of the members in this House have confidence in you.
And if the vote fails, if majority still want her around,
I will tell you, I have a commitment. I took an oath before I entered into this office. I took an oath to fight for justice, for transparency, for accountability, for democracy, and for raising the integrity and the effectiveness of our assembly. So I'm going to do that. There are others like me, majority of the people. We are going to do that. Listen, we have just come from Brussels. And in the Brussels, we went, it was the commission and the chairs of the committees. What was I saying on the floor of the House? I was saying, during that journey, one member who is an ardent supporter and works at the behest and under the direction of the Speaker, violently attacked members, physically, verbally, attacked heads of states, attacks the institutions. Now, you saw yesterday, she was telling me you can't give the details using the rules. She didn't use those rules to stop this member from attacking people. And we restrained ourselves. I fear that if we don't clean up the mess in this House, and it's poor leadership. It's poor leadership. Listen, you had a press conference at the beginning of this. And the lady was saying that I will go on for 5 years, whatever happens.
So at the end of the day,
doesn't.
In conclusion, as we finish, then when we have all these, dust being blown all over with all these sort of infightings between the Speaker and some members, those wanting her
Not some
out,
members, the majority of the members.
according to
the
you.
The people who signed were 37 out of 45.
So when then do we have time to discuss these bills and time to represent our citizens and deal with the real issues of integration? In conclusion.
Are you saying to me, sir, that we should accept bad governance?
So
is that what you're saying to me?
If we are going to have more time dealing with this, not coming to a conclusion, not putting it to rest very soon,
I assure you.
When do we sit down to discuss?
I assure you,
integration.
It will come to a rest, because now we're waiting for the commission to report back to the House on the bad behavior, the excesses of a particular member, including attacks, physical attacks. We want to see what will the Speaker do. Okay. Would she protect this member who has been acting under her instructions? Or will we apply the rule of law? Look, 4 things, and I'm finishing this with these 4 things.
Exactly.
Are you a Christian, sir? I am not. I am a Muslim. But it's since the majority of the people in this country are Christian, the Bible says that without a vision, nations perish. So we are seeking to have a clear vision in the House. 2, We want accountable leadership. Leadership that is accountable and open and democratic and transparent.
That's 2. Number 3.
Number 3, we want discipline. Without discipline, there is nothing that can be done. We want discipline. And when we come to Rwanda, we learn about discipline. So we want discipline in our assembly, and decorum, and respect, and honor, and dignity. But number 4,
final.
Number 4, I give you assurance, we are committed. And if you give me an opportunity next time to appear before you,
yes,
I will only concentrate, and I had started doing that,
exactly,
about bills, about motions,
and
about the good
progress,
work, about the good work we are doing.
Okay.
It is you who asked me about the soul thump that is
disturbing,
there for everybody
that is
to see.
All right. Thank you so much,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Abubakar. Thank you so much for being with us on One-on-One. That's all the time we had right here. Of course, we have extended a right of reply to the Speaker of the East African Legislative Assembly. We are hoping that by the end of the sessions at the Parliament in Rwanda here, she will be able to also come on board and be able to give her side
I
of the
asked
story.
to have a public debate at the university, if you like.
On this issue.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much. There you go. We end at that particular point. My name is Eugene Anangwe. It's been hot and smoking. Goodbye for now.